Hey, Mr. Woodley. First of all, I want to thank you so much for letting me observe your class today. And also thank you for participating in the creation of our rigor observation form. So today in your classroom, I want to know how you thought your lesson went.
Um, I thought the lesson went okay overall.
Great. Why, okay.
Well, I was dealing with some external factors outside of my control. I had some new kids that weren't really used to me, so just having to jump over that hurdle during the lesson just to make it run as smoothly as possible, dealing with the constraints that we were dealing with in the moment.
Okay, what parts of the lesson do you felt were strongest?
I think modeling it for them was pretty strong because I got to actually go in depth about the objective and hit those key points and set them up for success
You did.
when they were able to actually provide their responses.
Nice. Was there anything that didn't land the way that you hoped it would?
Mm, I wanted the like engagement points to be stronger. But dealing with the extreme constraints, I expect it came out more so how I would have expected it to.
Okay. I noticed that the kids were very cognitively engaged whenever you used the graphic organizer to help them identify tone and mood. So I thought that was really good. I also liked when you were modeling for them, as you were annotating, you were identifying different words that could identify as tone and mood, which I thought was like quickly moving forward to the objective. Um, so what routines or strategies do you think helped keep kids engaged during the modeling portion?
So not just reading all the way through. I chunked it strategically. Like I already knew what my stopping points were before I landed at them, and where I wanted to stop and actually have feedback from them and actually involve them with the modeling. Because I know the modeling portion is for me to do most of the talking, but I still want the students to be involved during the time period. So in order for me to not lose them. So I just wanted to make sure that, hey, that I had these stopping points and that uh, whatever stopping point I did have was matched up to the objective. So like you said, we were focused on the tone and mood based on analyzing the language. So any words that I keyed in on that gave us a clue toward the tone and mood of the text, that's where I wanted the stopping points. And the graphic organizers, there were some points that were kind of filled out already,
Yes.
and points that I know that was going to be addressed on a graphic organizer. That's what I wanted to address during my model so that they could be successful when they fill out the parts that's specifically for them.
Nice. Yeah, your turn and talk collaboration was done at a perfect point in time whenever you asked them to turn and talk about what word they were going to use. So that was done really well. Um, I do have a question. So as you were circulating and listening to their responses as they were turning and talking, was there something specific that you were looking for?
I was just looking for to see if they were going to land on like the similar tone and mood words that I came up with, and also I wanted to know the how. Like, okay, you landed on this tone word or mood word, but how did you get to that point? What word did you see? So that's why in my model I underlined specific word choices because I wanted them to see like my thinking behind it when I'm picking out mood and tone words and at what points I'm stopping. So I want them to identify evidence on their own.
So the way that you are pushing the kids to think further and deeper is by identifying evidence to justify their answers. Okay. So what might a follow-up question sound like if a student gives you a correct but surface level answer? So if they say like, what's the mood? They say happy.
And so if a student just says happy, I'm like, well, number one, I'm thinking, okay, how do you know it's a happy mood? What keyed you in from the text that demonstrates that this is a happy mood? Explain it.
There was a few times that I think that I did notice that like gentle nudge that you were giving them.
Mhm.
Is there a specific reason why you kept like the depth of knowledge questions so basic rather than diving deeper?
I guess because of that unfamiliarity with certain students, and just for time's sake, I wanted to keep it moving forward, and so I didn't want to go too deep just yet. Now, when we get to the like we do portion of the lesson, then that's at the point when I want to dive deeper into like, okay, yeah, I understand.
Um, so there was a point in your model when you asked the students whether the monster was making a smart decision. What made you choose that as a real world application?
Um, because I wanted them to understand, like, I wanted them to be able to understand, like how he's being reflective. Because the tone at the beginning was him being furious and
Mhm.
full of rage and wanting revenge against his creator. But now I want them to see like the aftermath of it, the calming down point, and just thinking about, okay, in the real world, we tend to, after experiencing such anger like that, we actually, calm down and think back like, hey, maybe that wasn't a smart decision.
And if you were to give like a real world application that was like an example that the kids could relate to, like is there one that you could think of off top right now?
Um, just say, let's say maybe somebody did something that you didn't like, and you were very furious about it. You were upset, and you did something that maybe you might have regretted. What is your thinking process after that? What are you thinking after? Where does your mind go?
Interesting. So you're pushing on that like regret.
Mhm.
Okay. So
And
how
reflection.
so how do you think that connecting like the real world engagement pieces with your remedial students, which that class is pretty much a remedial class,
Mhm.
how do you think that that would help them understand the text in a deeper way?
I think it will. I think it'll make it relevant because using a situation like that, as humans, we all go through a range of emotions, and that's something that they can connect to. So if they can connect to it, then they can understand the text better and understand what the author is trying to get at.
Would you ever use like your own personal example of a time that you got really angry and then it led to regretted reflection?
Um,
Why or why?
maybe not.
Mhm.
Maybe not, because I would want them to connect their own experiences. So I would use a statement that's more general. Now, unless I felt like, oh, okay, this is something that maybe a lot of people can relate to, then it's possible that I would. But I want to take it away from me, and I want them to see that it can apply in multiple areas.
Nice. Do you think that you were able to make the connection about why learning mood and tone is important?
Mm, I think if in the progression of the lesson, I could have made that connection. I don't think I hit on that just yet.
How would you do that?
Um, Probably synthesizing like the learning, like, okay, this is everything that we learned early on in the text. Now let's put it all together, see why this is important. So they understand like, okay, if I understand like the mood and the tone of the text throughout, like the changes that he's going through, then I can understand the text as a whole, right? Because this text comes with a variety of emotions, a big range.
Mhm.
So if they're able to understand that, then they can understand the text.
Okay, give me a second. So if a student asked you, why does reading Frankenstein matter? What would your answer be?
Because the themes in the text is something that is universal.
Okay, and what are the things?
Uh, Feelings of the consequences of your actions. That's a universal thing. That's one universal thing that I can think of off the top. That every action has a consequence to it, whether it's a good consequence or bad. That's something that they can all learn. That's something that a learner at any level can connect to.
So you know that my observation was like based off of the level of rigor, right?
Mhm.
It's from the observation tool that we made yesterday, or yeah, yesterday.
Mhm.
Um, so just like thinking, like reflecting on your lesson again, what is one small change that you think you could make to your maybe your probing types of questionings to increase rigor immediately?
Maybe maybe those how do you know questions like
Yeah.
uh asking that to like putting that with the turn and talk. Like, okay, what is the move and how do you know? Putting that with the
So
turn and
adding that
talk.
next level during the turn and talk.
Instead of like once they already give me like a mood, instead of like if they say happy, then I can instead of just having them just say that, just tell me I know that the tone of the text is happy because in paragraph such and such the author states this.
I also on your graphic organizer, you had like a list of possible like tone words that they could choose from. I think that was really helpful as well. So what is one real world connection that you could make ahead of time to help this skill of identifying tone?
Overall connections that I could
Other than like them being upset.
maybe hinting on that hitting on that feeling of being what abandonment does to a person, right? Because I think that sets the foundation for them understanding, okay, this is why he was furious at this moment, and right, he's experiencing um this this great this great anger right now. And we see like the trickle down of that calming after the calm after the
Yeah.
storm. So hitting on that tone of abandonment and loneliness, making that connection with them first.
Yeah.
Maybe bringing up a situation like a puppy, right? What happens when you get a new puppy and you put it to sleep for the first time and it's not connected to you? How does that puppy feel? Right?
That's true. It's a good rule of connection. So the lesson objective was students will be able to analyze how language shapes perception and contributes to the overall tone and mood of an argumentative text. My question for you is, was this an argumentative text? It wasn't, right?
No,
Yeah, I don't know why.
no, I don't know why.
Yeah, it was weird. I was just wondering because my objective is literally the same. Alrighty. So as we walk through the observation form, I'm going to tell you like the things that I notated and just kind of give you some like comments and feedback. So the first section that we created was the student engagement and voice. And the hope to up the rigor in the classroom is to increase the level of open-ended questions that you have, because that encourages students to talk. I'm aware because of like the NES model, the times that our students are allowed to talk is very intentional. And then also the time that I observed you was a short period of time, but I do think that the amount of turn and talks that you did have was sufficient for the time period that I observed you. So you completed a turn and talk after the students filled out their graphic organizer to allow for students to collaborate on their understanding of the text, which I think was a really, you did good. So students explain their thinking using academic language. So in my observation, I have none observed, but I also wasn't able to hear them because, you were walking around, I wasn't. So are the kids explaining their answers in academic language at all? In your opinion, obviously.
I wouldn't, they, I wouldn't say they weren't using they weren't using like, oh, the tone
Right.
is, the evidence from the text is, so no, I would say no.
Is there a way that you think that we could implement that into
Yeah,
our lesson?
putting the speaking stems on there
Yeah.
for when they turn it.
And is that something the stems that the district took away?
Um, so I know sentence stems for writing was taken away,
But talking
but talking stems, they didn't say anything about that, so I do think that can be
added into
incorporated.
it.
Yeah.
Nice. So the next section is questioning and depth of thinking. And this is the section that I think not just you, but all of our teachers on campus can definitely do a better job of diving deeper into, because I think because of the NES model, we're very much so just ticking off boxes sometimes. So like going that next step further to initiate kids being able to think deeper and collaborate is pretty difficult. But when it came to the box where it says like teacher asks probing questions, the most probing questions you asked were during your guided practice, which is good. But all of them were all low level depth of knowledge questions. There wasn't really much else that you like. There wasn't you didn't go deeper until this kids started doing their own individual work. So like my question to you is, do you think that during the like model, do you think that including depth of knowledge, like deeper level questions, would be beneficial for your students or not?
Yep, it would be.
Why?
Because that will deepen their understanding of it. Like it'll force them to think, actually force them to like go back to the text. Because one thing I noticed with students is they haven't made that connection that reading it one time is not always sufficient. So going back and reading it again will also strengthen your understanding of what's going on. Because first time is literally like you're sitting it for the first time, you're kind of skimming through it. You're reading it, but you're not really at that level of understanding it when you go back another time. And just getting them to understand the benefits of that.
Yeah.
Too. So asking them questions will actually force them to.
So I noticed that when you told them to do their response card, you asked them to use textual evidence that was already gathered on their graphic organizer. Was there a way that you could have kind of like taken that away to have them kind of think on their own and use the text in the entirety as possible options?
There is, but one thing that I forgot to let them know is I want them to actually explain that connection. So that's what was supposed to take it to the next level. Not, I wanted them to be prepared for it by having it, but I want them to take it to the next level by actually explaining.
Yeah, so the emphasis was on the explanation rather than the textual evidence, right? Because that's a trend that we've seen. So the next piece is students engaging in multiple types of thinking. So I noticed most that you engaged in analytical thinking and a little bit of the practical thinking, but we did not engage in creative or research-based or any questions really moving beyond recall. So I know that would take probably a lot of legwork, right, for you and your students. But can you think of a way that like you could have had like a creativity element within your lesson at all? Or have you in the past?
I have now, as far as thinking about examples, none are coming to the forefront right now. But
That's fine.
With this one, as far as a creative element, maybe having them think about, okay, how would you put yourself in that same situation, right? You're the character. What is your thought process after you were abandoned and rejected? And you are isolated at this point. So what is your thought process in this moment?
Okay.
Doing some turning talks based on that, or actually just writing about it, just so they can get that practice.
Can you tell me about a research-based lesson that you made connections with Frankenstein?
Research-based lesson. Yeah. We read a text yesterday about genetically modified salmon and like basically the consequences associated with that, which kind of hits on the theme of Frankenstein, because in that article it stated how these genetically modified fish, the FDA at first was like, yeah, well, it's safe for everybody to eat. Then they became unsure, didn't know like, okay, what the effects would be later on down the road. Kind of like Victor and Frankenstein. Like he was excited, and just like they were with the fish, he was excited to have this new and innovative thing going on, but he did not consider the implications for the future.
Okay. The next section is skill applications and stamping learning. And that's a big thing here at HISD. And you did do that. You utilized the student response to stamp the learning, which was great. The real world context of making good decisions was helpful. And when the students fill out the tone word identification charts and use the textual evidence to prove their choice of tone, I had a question. Was that like an intentional scaffold that you embedded in the lesson?
Wait, repeat that again.
The graphic organizer that they used, was it an intentional scaffold for like your special ed students?
It was definitely intentional.
Okay. Have you ever included anything that scaffolded up in a lesson?
For my higher level learners, that's one thing that I do need to include in my lessons because it's been a lot of emphasis on getting my kids who are not on level to meet up with them. That sometimes that gets lost by the wayside.
So I noticed also that for this specific lesson, you used the book itself, where I've seen before that you've used like kind of like a modified text. How do you decide between using the modified text versus the like book itself?
Well, just knowing my students, I'll pass as a general rule of thumb, everybody receives it, but I know who needs to use it. So I'll make a general statement like, hey, if you need this support, if you need this support, I want you to read this. Now, the first option, the first read is always reading the original text. I don't want my students jumping straight to that. But if you're having trouble understanding what was on the original text, then let's go here. And the thing is, with that text, they can actually annotate and highlight on it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have one-on-one books this year like we did last year. So students can only make light marks with their pencils and not really make true notes like they can. So that's also served as an advantage for even my students who are above level. They can still make their annotations on that paragraph based on what they read in the original book.
So did the kids have the paper text today at all, or just the book?
Today it was just the book.
Okay, so if you read it again, maybe they'll have like the scaffolded down text. Okay, interesting. I was just wondering. Let's see. So the next one is purposeful practice and relevance. Your modeling was great. I would say that was probably the strong point of your lesson. Really making sure that your students understood what the text was actually saying. At first I was like, man, like he's kind of taking a long time, like as far as pacing goes, like, but I think that it was like needed because if you didn't do it the way that you did and go as slow as you did and ask the like questions as you were going, I don't think that the students would have understood what you were looking for.
It was a lot of
it
was a lot to take in for that moment. And like I could have said like, hey, I'm gonna read this, I want y'all to read this, and I'm gonna read this, but I really wanted to break it down for them and understand it, hear it being read out loud. So and hear my thinking during the reading so that when they do go on their own to read, they're prepared.
And they, yeah, that was definitely a highlight for you.
And also because they have a longer section. So I had the first long section of reading, and when we do we do, I'm gonna start off with one paragraph, but they're gonna have a long section to do as well. So showing them, okay, this is what you do when you have a long section of reading.
We didn't get to the we do portion, but how long was the we do portion reading?
The we do portion reading, I estimated at about, for me, it would have taken me about 2 minutes to read, so I'll just automatically double it for them. A 4 minute read.
Was it like longer or shorter than the one that you modeled it?
Slightly shorter, slightly shorter.
And then what about the independent?
The independent practice, that one was a long. That would have been about 5 minutes of reading. It was probably about the same amount as the original.
Okay. Very cool. So I like ended up scoring you for your like level of rigor at proficient, simply because I think there was a lot of like external factors that impacted like the like comfortability of your teaching. But I think that the main like key points for you to like increase your rigor would be to making student connections to their emotions in real life to increase the understanding of the monsters' actions. Because I mean, I've read Frankenstein, and I think the intention behind how emotional the monster is for the reader to actually make those connections with the monster. So finding a way to make sure that the students are connecting in that way. And then also just, I remember at the very beginning of your lesson, you were so fast to like, teach to the DOL or whatever, or, establish what the learning objective was. And I think at that moment, informing the kids about why they're learning about tone and mood would establish a better foundation for the lesson overall. Because that would give kids more of a purpose than just being in school, and would allow them to kind of like start to think about those deeper level questions at that point in time. But again, the biggest highlight was definitely the modeling of your during the guided practice. So a couple things that I would like to see when I see you next. So I'd like to see you make connections for the students in real world examples. Sometimes I make connections between, like, I'll even go as far as to do like Kendrick Lamar and Drake, or I never go political, but I use music a lot to make those connections. And then just like when you are internalizing your lesson, kind of maybe embedding those deeper depth of knowledge questions like into your lesson somewhere, just for those moments where you feel like you can scaffold up to make sure that we're servicing the kids that are on level or moving past on level, because I think HISD's lessons are created on level and then they kind of put it on the teacher to scaffold down or up, right? So like, I know that you prepare, your level down text, you prepare your graphic organizers a lot of the time. If the kids are needing some sort of like vocabulary sheet, we do that a lot. So I would really challenge you to, obviously, get your scaffold slope down, because I know you have a very high special ed population, but also do like maybe one or two scaffolds up to kind of like move the bar to that next level for our students. Because remember, the point is that we're trying to move our kids from approaches to masters. And then of course, like on the vocabulary level for the SAT as well. So I, again, really appreciate you helping me out. The students were majority of the time cognitively engaged and not just compliant, which I appreciated. I also think that your internalization of your lesson was really good. So I appreciate your time. You're welcome.